Hi, this is Chris Saxman with Virginia Free. Joining me today is Kentucky Governor and Washington elite graduate, class of 1989, how I got to know Matt. Also, we want to extend an invitation to say thank you to Copeland Cap for arranging this, your classmate. But Governor Bevin, thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be on with you. Truly am. I appreciate talking to people who are similarly minded on an ideological front. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, we're a pro-business state, and you've done some great pro-business work there on right to work. Take us through that process on right to work and making Kentucky right to work and how it's helped Kentucky be more competitive.
Sure. When I ran for office, this is the first political job I've ever had. So I wasn't involved in politics in any way, hadn't ever worked in politics. I didn't study political science at W&L, even though there were great opportunities to do so. It wasn't on my radar screen. However, here's what I was doing. I was paying taxes, employing people, and realizing how difficult it sometimes was to be able to accomplish this. And one of the things that every single economy needs is a robust environment in which businesses can come and thrive. And what was clear to me is that not being a right to work state, the only one in the South, was a real detriment to us in Kentucky. So when I did run for office, I put out a list in writing of things that I would do. 7 things. I called it a blueprint for a better Kentucky. The very first thing on that list was to pass right-to-work legislation. That was considered the kiss of death. I was told nobody will go for it. You'll never get elected. You won't be able to get it done. But to me, you've got to have audacious goals and ones that you are willing to do what is necessary to get accomplished. What I knew to be the case and what we have since seen to be true was that if, in fact, you pass right-to-work legislation, you open up the potential for more business opportunities. And if a third of CFOs and CEOs say they will not expand in or move to a state that's not right to work, you should listen. I don't mind fishing in a pond, but if I can fish in a pond that's a third bigger, then that's something I would want to do. And so we fought to get this done. I was able to do it once we were able to get some more like-minded people in our House in particular. What we saw has been tremendous. Previously in Kentucky's history, the most private capital invested in our state in a single year was $5.1 billion. $5.1 billion. Last year, 2017, the first full year of right to work, in fact, the first year, $9.2 billion. To say that there was not a direct correlation would be completely false. We had one company that is investing $1.3 billion, the first greenfield aluminum rolling mill in North America in 40 years. And the CEO said at the announcement he would not have even considered Kentucky, let alone come to Kentucky, if we had not been a right-to-work state. And there are many other stories as well. So I cannot overemphasize how important it is for creating opportunity for new chances to earn business for your state.
What would you say to Virginia legislators and politicians who would seek to repeal our right to work statute?
That would be insane. And I know you have a governor who's he's a VMI guy. He also went to school in Lexington, and he's a good man, Governor Northam. I'm not going to diss him at all. He really is a good guy. I've gotten to know him, and I like him. But he ran with certain promises because certain people who supported him expected him to do certain things. I would say to him and to all of you in the legislature, don't do this to yourselves. You're going to help states like us.
Ralph did that. I don't think Ralph did that. I don't think he ran on repealing right to work.
Good. I hope not. I know that, I guess in his primary, one of his opponents was advocating for this. Don't even go there. If you do, it will be beneficial to us. It'll be beneficial to your other neighboring states. But what's bad for Virginia is frankly bad for the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast, and it's bad for America. And Virginia is a great state.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate our Commonwealth status along with Kentucky and Pennsylvania.
Exactly. 1 of 4, baby. Commonwealth.
And then, we're just catching up to y'all in basketball. Why would we take a step back in right to work?
Well, this year you've passed us by a bit, I'd say.
Just beat Louisville, FYI. Let's
don't even start. Don't even start. That was a painful 9/10 of a second, my friend.
I almost wrecked on Interstate 95 listening to the thing. I'm like, the math is wrong. They could not have won. The only reason I stayed on was to listen to the post-game interview. Literally. I'm like, well, I'll stay on and see what Bennett has to say.
That was heartbreaking. That really was.
I don't think it was that heartbreaking. Anyway, let's move along. I know your time is short, and we respect that. And again, thank you, Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin, for joining us. Let's shift into healthcare. number one issue in America for the last, decade and a half, right? You have, I'm just going to frame this for folks here in Virginia and we're watching. You ran in the Senate primary against Mitch McConnell, Tea Party support. You know, you come from a strong conservative background. You got the endorsement of the Senate Conservatives Fund. You're no, what Republicans would call squishy, conservative, moderate rhino, whatever they want to term you up to be. And you have implemented a process or a policy called Kentucky Health, which is an expansion in the Kentucky way of doing that. Take us through the politics of this, and then we'll get into some of the policy and the process. But take it through because Republicans are fighting with this notion here in Virginia, and I think it would be instructive to see what you saw in the campaign and now implementing as governor as a first-time, elective office.
Sure. I mean, this is what I have seen. We have tremendous health care issues in our state. And Virginia does to a fair degree too, but you think about southwestern Virginia, for example. What you wrestle with there is some of the very same demographic we wrestle with in a significant portion of our state. We are one of the most unhealthy states in areas like hypertension and cardiovascular disease and lung cancer and premature deaths and a variety of different things that we don't want to be leading the nation in. So to me, it's not just simply a function of giving people coverage. A lot of times people will say, hey, we gave them health coverage. We expanded Medicaid. My predecessor, the governor before me, expanded Medicaid in our state. It was supposed to add 180,000 people and then maybe 300,000 people and then, maybe 400. It added 500,000 people to our Medicaid rolls. We now have 1 out of 3 people in our state on Medicaid. We already had us 20+%, and now we're a third.
Wow.
It's a problem. Financially alone, it's a problem. But what is the point of providing something like Medicaid accessibility? You think about it, in the very beginning, Chris, Medicaid was intended for people that were medically frail, the pregnant, the blind, the infirmed, children, people who didn't have the alternative to have access that some others who are able-bodied and working age might have. Interestingly, though, with this expansion, we brought a lot of people like ourselves and some of those that are watching this into the mix. And by bringing them into the mix, we've changed the whole dynamic. We put a financial burden on it so that it's harder to have the resources to provide for those who really need it, but we may or may not truly be helping people to become healthier. And there are many liberals who love the idea of giving people coverage, but coverage does not even mean you have access. And what we've seen in our state, and I would be willing to bet in Virginia, is that by having more people on Medicaid, you actually have fewer doctors that are willing to see Medicaid patients. So now access is actually more limited. So you may have coverage, but you don't have access. And even if you have access, it may or may not lead to a better health outcome. So what I would say to your legislators and to those that are supporting them and people who are weighing in on this, you should strive, which is what we're trying to do in Kentucky, to get better health outcomes. That's my only purpose in wanting to have a waiver. I want what it takes to get better health outcomes for our people. And the way to do it is to have them engaged in their own health care, by whether they're working, whether they're volunteering, whether they're taking education courses or training courses. The bottom line is people that are engaged in the community, engaged in their own health, are much more likely to get better health outcomes because they have a vested interest in the process.
That's a great summation of the goals and the aspirations of the program. Commend you. Talk about the politics within the Republican Party, though. This Medicaid expansion, entitlement expansion. This is not in the creed, if you will, of Republican philosophy and thinking.
No.
So how has this been embraced within the party and frankly their politics? We're thinking about this in Virginia. We have elections in a year and a half, in November of next year. Explain to people in Virginia, what's the political experience been for a conservative Republican like yourself?
So I came into office and the expansion had already happened. Because it was done with executive action by my predecessor, I did have the option of, by executive action, completely removing all expanded Medicaid in our state. It was my intention initially to do exactly that. But as I started to look at this process, and this gets to not just the politics, but the policy of it as well.
Right.
If the point is to get people to a state of better health, and we as a state need that, Here was the ability, if I could get permission from CMS, which is a division of HHS, the ones who oversee Medicaid, Medicare, if I could get a waiver that would allow me the latitude within Medicaid to come alongside people and provide the opportunity to become healthier, become more engaged, pay premiums, get engaged in the workforce, in volunteering and in training that helps them pursue the American dream and pursue active, healthier lifestyles. If I could use this through entitlement reform, then it would be an opportunity I wouldn't want to miss. And interestingly, we've not had any entitlement reform since the mid-90s with welfare reform. And this was a chance for Kentucky to lead the nation like no one had in a generation in transforming what it is we expect out of a federal entitlement program. So rather than just get it gone in lock, stock, and barrel, I said, if I can be given permission, then we will modify this because I think we'll be better for it. It will cost us more, but we will end up with a better, healthier population, and that will ultimately cost us less. If I was not able to get the 1115 waiver, I would have completely gotten rid of expanded Medicaid.
And you got the 1115 waiver?
We did. We're the first state in America that's ever been given the ability to have work and volunteer type requirements for Medicaid recipients. It also gives us latitude as it relates to what percentage of Medicaid dollars we can apply to mental health issues and to opioid addiction and other things that are critical that used to not be possible. So it gives us tremendous latitude with the billions of dollars that we're spending and the federal government is spending in our state. Gives me better comfort as a conservative that we're getting a good return on that investment. If we did not get that, we would not be wasting our money and that of the other taxpayers.
When did you get that waiver?
It just came just a few weeks back. I mean, we've had
really?
it just, we're, again, first state in American history to be given this waiver. And this is something I worked on for nearly 2 years. It was just granted in the last couple of months. We're in the process of getting it ready to be implemented. It will be rolled out in 2018 in 5 areas around the state to cover. We're breaking the state into fifths. Starting July 1 at the top of our fiscal year, then between July 1 and November, we will roll it out in fifths. And by the top of 2018, everybody in this state will align Medicaid, SNAP, TANF. We will have these work requirements synchronized. We will bring the resources all under one roof where possible so that people aren't trying to get to the SNAP office, the TANF office, the Medicaid office, and the health office all in different places. It's about being efficient, being better stewards of the taxpayers' money.
Well, that's obviously, what Republicans like to hear and want to do. How has it been received, though, at the district level for the members of the General Assembly who would be supporting this or running for or against this in the primaries right now in Kentucky heading into November's elections?
Here's what I'll tell you. Whether people are vocal about it, overt about it, or whether they're not, the vast majority of people in both parties recognize that to allow able-bodied working-age people to get something for nothing that other people go to work every day and bust their tails for and may or may not even have themselves so that they can pay taxes and give it to someone just like them for free, people are fed up with it. They're fed up with it. And this is very, very popular. I'm telling you, people like the idea of people being engaged. Who doesn't like it? The nattering nabobs of negativism that Agnew referred to, and it's true enough. They now all live in the world of media, and so the liberal interest groups and their media friends, they hate it. They consider this somehow a conditionality.
Your pushback is from the Democrats?
I'm not naming parties. I'm just saying
there's a
certain mindset.
We're not. I like the opposite. The pushback is coming from Republicans, and this is one obviously the fascinating thing about politics. To quote Napoleon, there is no destiny, only politics. And we've got neighboring states with some similarities politically, and yet we have this dichotomy in how we implement health care policies at the state level, take care of those who can't necessarily afford their own health care.
What we want in Virginia, in Kentucky, and everywhere in America is healthier people, because healthier people cost the system less because they spend less of their own income and other people's income on their health. And so these are the kind of things that are just plain good policy. Good policy leads to good politics. And I would say this, people want people to earn what they get if they are in a position to do so. And how blessed we are, Chris, to live in a nation where if people are not able to do so, the rest of us have enough that we can still provide for them. That's who Medicaid was initially intended for. That's who we should make sure we preserve it for.
You know, I just had lunch, and the waitress that's at the local restaurant that I go to a couple times a week, or you know, she's having trouble with her hand. And I said, well, have you gotten that taken care of? Because she wants to start her own yoga business, single mother of two. You know, she wants to move up and out, right? She wants to provide for her kids and do better by herself. And she says she can't afford to even get her hand operated on because it's just too expensive. I said, well, do you qualify for Medicaid? She's like, I don't know. And I said, well, you know, this is the example that is real in our economy when you talk about a single mother of two who's trying to provide for her children and provide and hopefully follow her dreams of being her own business owner and provide, you know, a yoga studio and really grow something. And it's just, you just see the light snuffed out of some people's dreams. And that's just not who we are and what we're about as a country, I don't think.
No, the point of this waiver, and you're speaking to the heart of it, Chris, the point of this waiver is not Medicaid and other entitlement programs were not intended to be a destination. The American dream is a real thing. It's not some anecdotal, ethereal kind of once was and isn't anymore kind of a thing. The American dream is real. And what we want is for these entitlement programs not to be a destination, but to be a way station, a temporary way station on the pursuit of the American dream. And so giving people on-ramps through work, through volunteering, through education, giving people on-ramps to pursue the American dream like this waitress you're talking about. That's exactly what these programs should exist to do. And shame on us in politics and those with a voice like yours if we don't find ways to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money in a way that allow all these boats to rise on the tide. We can't do everything. But the role of government is to provide for the safety and security of people, for the education of people, for the infrastructure to move goods to market. These are the primary roles of government. Above and beyond that, we should make sure anything that we're doing is a good return for the taxpayer's investment.
Well, Governor Matt Bevin of Kentucky, I know your time is short, and I can almost hear Jack Kemp in our heads saying good
That's a
things.
great compliment. And I'll tell you, here's the thing about Jack Kemp, and I know we got to part ways, and I'll look forward. Maybe we could talk again at some point. But a guy like that, he was a man who loved America. He was practical. He had good Midwestern-type sensibilities, even though he wasn't necessarily a Midwestern guy. But he was a guy who, he was respected because he was thoughtful, and he was measured, and he was respectful and loving to other people. And he simply wanted people to be given the opportunity to pursue the American dream with as little government interference as possible. And we should want no less today.
That's right. And if you get a chance to read the biography of Jack Kemp by Morton Kondracki, I highly recommend it. Governor Matt Bevin, good to catch up with you. Sorry we have to do it by internet, but your staff has been wonderful, and we wish the Kentucky Wildcats and Louisville Cardinals all the best in the NCAA up to a point.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. It's rare the year comes that we just want to make it to the tournament. This year, we just want to get in the tournament. And I will say this, there's not a team in America that would want to play either of our teams in the first or second round.
No. They're very, very talented teams. And
Sweet 16. We're going for the Sweet 16.
Hey, it's the NCAA. Our son was a manager for South Carolina's basketball team last year, and they went to the Final Four. Cinderella, dream effort. And so anything can happen. That's why it makes this country so great.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Chris. Great to speak with you.
Thanks, Matt. Best of luck to you.
Take care.